For a year now, everyone has told me the same thing. The open source AI software engineer is finally here, and I wanted to believe it. But that phrase, open source AI software engineer, hides two very different things. There's the agent, the code that plans and edits and runs your tests. And there's the model, the brain doing the actual thinking. Watch what happens when you pull them apart. The badge cracks in half. An open body, and a brain that may not be open at all. So, hype or real? Let's follow the receipts. Welcome to AI Tech Book. Today, the claim everyone repeats that open source AI can now do the software engineering and whether the receipts back it up. What's genuinely real, where the hype breaks, and the one distinction that changes the whole answer. Start where I started. The number that made me a believer. These tools are measured on one test. It's called SWE-bench, and it's brutally concrete. Take a real bug report from a real open source project and let the AI try to fix it. You only pass if the project's own tests go green afterward. No credit for looking close. When that test launched back in 2023, the best model in the world resolved just under 2% of the issues. Almost nothing. Now watch 2 years go by. By early 2026, the top score is about 79%. 2% to 79. A 40-fold jump. If you stop reading right here, the AI software engineer has arrived sounds exactly true. But whose 79% is it? Here's what surprised me. You'd assume the top of that leaderboard is all closed, corporate systems. It isn't. The agent at number 1, resolving that 79%, is open source. Right below it, mini SWE agent, about 77. Then OpenHands, around 72. Then the original SWE agent out of Princeton, 66. These are open scaffolds. The agent code is public. You can read it, run it, change it. SWE agent came out of a university lab. OpenHands, which started life as OpenDevin, has nearly 80,000 stars on GitHub and ships under a permissive license. So the open badges aren't clinging to the bottom of the board. They are the top of the board. At the frontier, the open source AI software engineer is real, and yet I still hesitated. One small flag next to every score. That flag is the whole story, and I'd only been reading half of it. Every row on the leaderboard carries two separate marks. One asks, is the agent code open? The other asks, are the model's weights open? Two questions, two different answers. So take that number 1 open agent and check the second mark. The agent, open, the model underneath it, closed. It's an open body running on a rented closed brain, usually a top model from Anthropic or OpenAI. And it's not the exception. Almost the entire top tier is exactly this shape. An open agent, a closed model. The part you can own, the scaffold, is open. The part doing the real thinking is a metered API you don't control and can't see inside. Which raises the obvious question. If the closed brain does the hard part, how much does the open agent even matter? More than I expected. And that's the first thing that's real. Here's the test I ran in my head. If the model does the thinking, then the polished closed agent should crush the scruffy open ones, right? So hold the model fixed and compare only the scaffolds. On the very same brain, that open number 1 agent ties a closed commercial system. Both land at about 79%, dead heat. Then look at how little scaffold it takes. One of the strongest open agents, mini SWE agent, is roughly 100 lines of code. 100 lines. On a top model, it reaches about 77%. So the agent being open costs you almost nothing at the frontier. You can own the entire harness for free. Only the brain is rented. That made me wonder, could you rent an open brain too and go open all the way down? You can. And it's closer than the headlines admit. This is the real dream. An open agent and an open model. Nothing rented. Nothing you can't inspect. It exists today. Pair one of those open scaffolds with an open weight model, the kind you can download and run yourself, like Kimi or Quen, and the best fully open combination lands around 71% on that same test. Now put it side by side with the closed brains. Same open scaffold. On a closed model like GPT, about 72. On the open model, about 70. Roughly a 2-point gap. 2 points. That's the whole penalty at the frontier for owning your brain instead of renting it. So you can run a capable software engineer with nothing rented. Today, not someday. And this is exactly where I got humbled, because every number so far comes from one test. And that test has fine print. I'd been quoting that 79% like it meant solves real software. It does not. Look at what the test contains. It's about 2,000 issues drawn from 12 popular Python projects. 12. All Python. Curated, clean, self-contained. So a second, harder benchmark was built to resist that long horizon, multi-file problems across 41 repositories with the answers held back so nobody can memorize them. Now watch the same top models cross from one bench to the other. On the curated test, 70+%. On the harder one, about 23. 23. That's the cliff. The leaderboard measures tidy Python issues, not the sprawling, messy, long horizon work sitting in your actual codebase. The capability is real. Autonomous software engineer is the oversell. And when a real human uses these tools on real code, a controlled study measured exactly that. The results stopped me cold. Surely, I thought, on real repositories, these tools at least make expert developers faster. That's the whole promise. So here's the study. 16 experienced open source developers, 246 real tasks on their own mature projects, the code they know best. Half the tasks with AI help, half without. A real randomized trial. Now watch the two clocks. What the developers felt too, about 20% faster. What measurement showed 19% slower, while being certain they were faster. Read those two clocks together, because that gap is the trap. A high leaderboard score is not a productivity guarantee. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. And you won't feel it happening. So if the scores don't match reality, can we even trust the scores themselves? The people who run the benchmark asked that too. Here's what happens to any number the moment it becomes marketing. People start optimizing the number instead of the thing. The team behind the benchmark knew that, so they audited it, checking for answers that exactly matched the official fix, the fingerprint of memorizing instead of solving. What they found was low, but real, a few percent. So watch the new rules drop. Any submission that matches the answers too closely now gets flagged for review. And new entries are restricted to academic teams who publish their methods in the open. Guardrails like that don't appear unless the board is getting crowded. And gamed. The lesson I took, read a leaderboard score as a claim to verify, never as a fact to trust. So, after all the receipts, hype or real? Both answers are true. The honest one holds them together. It's real. An open agent can resolve about 7 in 10 curated Python issues for cents to $1 per task. The open scaffold matches the closed one. You can own the whole harness and even rent an open brain today. Now the other pan. That 7 in 10 is curated Python. On harder, real-world work, the same systems dropped to around 23%. Real experts, on their own code, ran 19% slower. And most open-source AI software engineers are still an open agent renting a closed brain. So here's my read. The capability is real. The autonomy is the oversell. Use them the way they pay off. As a fast, cheap, open pair. Your hand on the wheel, your eyes on the tests. Not an engineer you walk away from, and always know which kind of open you're really running. That's the red. If it helped you separate the real from the hype, share it with one person still arguing about it, and subscribe to AI Tech Book. Next, we open the closed brain itself, how a model turns your prompt into working code.